Welcome back to Real Shit, where we like to talk real shit all day, every day, all for the love of movies and sometimes television. I'm your host Joe, and today I'm going to be doing basically a reaction. I wouldn't call it so much a review. Maybe it's a review. I don't know. A reaction slash recap, whatever you want to call it, of Ozark season 3. I'll briefly kind of cover things from season 1 and season 2 because I've never actually talked about them, but I basically binge watched the whole series within the past, I'd say, month maybe less. So and season 3 was just released not that long ago. And to be quite honest, and this is just coming from someone who has seen a lot of things on Netflix that he's not really, that didn't really connect with me, that I didn't really care for that much. I've been rough on Netflix in the past. Like, in my opinion, Netflix a lot of times is more about quantity than quality. They just are trying to get enough content on their streaming service to justify their price point, and I get it. But a lot of the shows on Netflix just haven't worked for me. And I'm not saying they're bad. I'm not saying, you're stupid for watching them, anything like that. But it's just a lot of them haven't worked for me. I like Stranger Things. I've liked Mindhunter. So there's a handful of things that I liked on Netflix. But for the most part, I don't usually take the time to watch anything on Netflix because most of the time it's been a waste of time for me personally anyway. But in this particular case, a few weeks ago, I took the plunge and I gave Ozark a chance. Now, this is a show that does have quite a bit of hype. I think it's like the number 2 show on Netflix right now, if I'm not mistaken. And that's always something that bothers me because, quite frankly, when mass amounts of people like things sometimes doesn't always mean that it's the highest quality. It's just something to pass the time in a lot of cases. But in this particular case, I think Ozark, to be quite honest, is probably one of the better TV shows that I've seen in a while, and that means a lot coming from me. Let me just say that, because it takes a lot for me to get fully invested in a TV show, regardless of all my Westworld reviews, but a different TV show, and especially Ozark, and one on Netflix for that matter. So I think Ozark, what I like about it is that it takes influences from things like The Sopranos and Breaking Bad, which you have these characters who are involved in these criminal activities, but they have to balance that life with their home life in a lot of ways. And Ozark takes that to another level by including, their children and their home life in the illegal activities. So that just kind of ups the ante a little bit and takes that whole balance thing to another level. Because not only do the children have to be children and the wife have to be a wife, but they also are heavily involved with the activities of this criminal underworld. And I think that is just a really interesting idea, and it's really well done in the show for sure. It's compelling TV. It really had me locked in the whole time, which again is not easy to do. It's got a great story. It never lets up. There's constantly new obstacles being thrown in the characters' directions. To the point where I thought it would be, to be quite honest, if it was on any other show and not as well written, it would probably come off as just going off pure shock value. But it's done in such a way in this show that it comes off very organic. It's just very well done. And it honestly just kind of just, as the viewer, it just keeps you enthralled. Like, what is going to happen next? And that is the sign of a good show, to be quite honest with you. It has a cast of characters in it that I think will rival almost any show. I think there are a ton of really good, really well-written characters in this movie, or this show, excuse me. There's characters that you love that you probably should hate because they do these despicable things. And then there's characters that you hate that maybe are trying to do some good, but it's just the way they're written. They're so, I guess you could say, complex. They're complex characters, and they kind of challenge your moral code as a viewer, and that's not easy to do. To the level that they do it in this show. That's just good TV. And it helps that all the performances in the show are really top notch as well. Especially Jason Bateman. To me, kind of mostly known as a bit of a comedic actor. He's been in things like Horrible Bosses and Identity Thief and stuff like that. But to see him in this dramatic role being put under his character being put under this pressure, it's just, he does just a phenomenal job, and it's even better than I thought it could possibly be, to be honest with you. So season 3, as I said, has been out for a couple months, but I just kind of wanted to give my thoughts on it because I know it's a little late, but it's just when something is this good, and again, I'm giving it high praise and it deserves it. When something is this good, I feel like I need to let the world know. And if there's a chance that anybody hasn't watched this show yet, or you're even thinking about watching it, you should. You should for sure. So this season saw my new favorite TV character, and that's Marty Byrde. And yes, he is one of my new favorite TV characters. I think he is probably one of the more compelling TV characters that we've seen in a long time, to be honest with you. So he has to deal with the frustrating actions of his power-hungry wife, basically getting him in deeper with the cartel when all he wants to do is just kind of keep the status quo, stay alive long enough to maybe possibly even one day get out. But she wants to go in deeper, and this causes friction between them. It causes friction between him and the cartel, him and Helen, the cartel lawyer. So this ultimately, obviously, leads to distrust in his wife. So he actually begins to put a wiretap on his wife and listen to her conversations. And she's having secret conversations with the leader of the cartel. So it complicates things even more. And this, of course, because he gets caught doing this, kind of gets him in hot water. And there's a little bit of doubt about their ability to coexist and how valuable they are, I guess, to the operation. So basically, he's abducted by the cartel and put in this cell and tortured. And this, to me, was my favorite episode of the season because he's put through all this hell. You get these flashbacks of him as a kid in this arcade machine. And I won't go into every little detail, but basically he comes out of it almost a completely different character. He still has all the skills with moving money around that he had before, but now he has like this new sense of, basically he's more assertive. He's more take charge. And basically the cartel was grooming him, essentially, to realize that he needs to take control of this situation. And if something is hindering the operation, whether that be his wife or anyone else for that matter, then he needs to take control and put a stop to it. And this essentially changes him. And I just love the character that he is once he comes back from that situation. The other major character, obviously, is his wife, and she's a great character, don't get me wrong, but she's also probably one of the more incredibly frustrating characters that I think I've ever seen in a TV show, at least for me, anyway. She constantly tries to place blame on Marty for things that she does all the time, and that's one thing I hate about characters like that, and it's done on purpose, obviously, again, to create conflict in you about how you feel about them, I'm sure, but like she constantly is telling him, you can't be doing things behind my back, and then she'll go and do things behind his back, and oftentimes it's things that get him in bigger trouble than he's already in, and it's just really frustrating that she's constantly putting him in these difficult situations. And there's also the introduction of her brother, which you kind of get a little bit more of a personal story for her, which I appreciated. Because you kind of see their relationship with each other. You get a little bit more backstory about her through him. But it ultimately, because her brother is kind of messed up in the head, he's bipolar, he's got mental issues, and he often turns violent and irrational. Well, this eventually gets him in trouble with the cartel, and it puts Wendy in a difficult situation where she either has to get him away or essentially give him up to the cartel. And she makes the mother of all sacrifices, the Godfather 2 type sacrifice of basically giving up her own brother and having him killed, and essentially all to help the operation to stay in the good graces of the cartel. And I have to admit, this is some of the best acting, I think, in the show. And the Wendy character, who I don't like, I actually felt sorry for, because that's how good the acting was, because it's such a messed up, difficult situation that they put her in, and it's just that's probably the second best episode in this season for sure. It's just a gut-wrenching situation, and I just felt for her, and that's not easy to do when you don't like a character, to actually still feel something for them. And then we have Ruth, who's possibly the most charismatic character in the whole show, and she has awesome taste in music, by the way. But she has a lot of issues this season for sure. She's got issues with a mob boss's son who's trying to loan shark at the casino she's running for Marty, and he's becoming a hindrance on the business, I guess you could say. So she has issues with him. She's still dealing with the guilt of murdering her uncles, and basically how that has affected her relationship with Wyatt, her cousin, who she loves dearly and wants nothing more than to take care of him. And she starts a relationship with Wendy's brother, who we see as unstable, but when he's with her, they are very... he's very nice, he's very understanding, he's almost obedient to her too. Like he worships the ground she walks on. So there's a lot going on with Ruth in this season for sure. But it all comes down to basically, once she has the conflict with the mob boss's son, she gets put in a position where she's beaten pretty badly and almost to the point of death. And she wants Marty and Wendy to retaliate, but they say that would mess up business and they can't retaliate. So all they're going to do is cut ties with the mob because they don't want a war. And of course, Ruth takes this as a slight because she thinks, being almost a daughter-like figure to Marty, at least she feels like she should be, and because she does so much for him, that he should do something more about what happened to her, and he doesn't. So this leads her to basically quit the operation, and she goes to work for Darlene, who Darlene is having a very disgusting and questionable relationship with Wyatt, but she also wants to restart her heroin business, and this is basically her bringing in Ruth because Ruth understands the money side of it, and they're going to essentially work together now. So all this, again, as you can see, there's a lot going on. I'm trying to cover everything the best I can. I'm sure I'm going to leave out little things here and there. But the other major thing, or the other major character I guess I should mention, would be Helen. She's the cartel lawyer I mentioned earlier, but she goes from being very chummy with Wendy kind of earlier in the season to eventually getting to the point where she's conspiring against the Birds to basically remove them from the operation altogether and essentially take over, and she's going to be in control to the point where she's trying to find out if the operation can run without Marty, and doing certain things here and there to, I guess, manipulate the situation, get in the cartel's ear, and basically try to get it in their mind that they don't need the Birds. And that's kind of something that I didn't quite see, especially earlier on, because she kind of seems to be sizing up with the Birds, and I thought it would be nice to have her as an ally for them. But as the season go on, through the course of things, with personal things with their kids and all that, she drastically changes, and it comes to the point, and again, the thing with her brother, with Wendy's brother, it comes to the point where Helen gets it in her head that the Birds need to go. But that ultimately, that hunger for power that she has, and the hunger for more that she has, is ultimately what causes her to meet her demise in the final moments of the season. So basically, the cartel chooses the Birds over her because they need Marty. And that's my favorite thing about this season, is now Marty is definitely in the driver's seat. Marty is definitely viewed as somebody who is necessary to the operation. Like, nothing would run the way it does without him. And I think it'd be really interesting to see where his new status goes if in fact they do make a season 4, which it hasn't been renewed yet. I can't imagine why they wouldn't. I mean, they surely would renew one of the best shows they have, I would think. But it'd be interesting to see where it goes from here for sure. But this is a must-see drama for me, in my personal opinion. Anyone who's thinking about watching it and hasn't yet, I highly recommend it. And if I'm highly recommending a Netflix show to you, then you should probably go watch it, because I don't do that very often. So you won't be sorry, in my opinion. Great characters, great story, twists, double crosses, humor, and it's clearly set up to continue. I think there's a clear path to the next season. So in my personal opinion, I don't think it's going to be ending anytime soon, but we'll see how it goes and what Netflix's decision is. But overall, I thoroughly enjoyed Ozark. I think it was one of the best shows that I've seen in a long time, and I highly recommend it. And so let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. If you're caught up, if you're not, let me know. But yeah, just let me know what you think about Ozark. Are you as enthralled with it as I was? And as depressed as I am now because I have to wait for season 4 after binging the first 3 seasons. So yeah, let me know about all that in the comments down below. As always, please like, comment, share, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. And I'll see you next time right here on Real Shift. Thanks for watching. Talk to you later.